Sometimes he moonlights as a wine connoisseur, college football fan, a sandwich aficionado, just an all-around good guy. Fresh from a knee replacement, looking quite dapper in a brand new sports coat. Wouldn't you say that's pretty sharp?
I was just thinking, where did you get that?
First thing I said to him, gave him props on that jacket.
Well, you know,
You're not going to reveal your sources on where you got your jacket from?
it's just a jacket.
Just a jacket. In other words, the wife bought it?
I'm not keeping up with Quentin Beckham.
That's right.
Quentin Beckham, we love you. We love when you watch the program as well, my friend. Keith Smith, how you feeling before we start the show?
I'm feeling good. Of those who have seen my post early this morning, I was up tearing into data. I got all kinds of
I saw that.
posts and things.
What time did you wake up this morning? 4:30?
A little earlier than that.
Okay, wow. That's
So if I
quite-
take a nap in the middle of the show, just kick me under the
we'll
chair.
kick you. That's why you brought the coffee from Dave?
I brought the coffee from Shenandoah Joe's and Dave Ferrara, so the coffee will keep us going, and I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be a lot of fun. Ned Galloway was supposed to join us today, but unfortunately, his assistant manager is sick and he couldn't join us, so he may be on the feed and chime in. I was looking for a Ned and Neil conversation, but we're going to reschedule that.
We love you, Supervisor Galloway, and we certainly miss you on set here. If you guys have any questions or props or perspective you would like to share, put it in the feed. Neil Williamson is a walking encyclopedia, and we certainly appreciate his participation across all our shows, in particular, Real Talk. Judah Wickower, who has become quite a fixture here on the network and who has a rabid following of adoring fans. Our director, we are ready to rock and roll.
Did he say rabbit?
Rabid following.
Rabbit.
I asked Judah if we could sell posters of himself on the website. He quickly shot that down.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that would be great.
Okay, whoa. Do you need somebody to help you negotiate that deal?
He wanted me to go shirtless.
Oh, yeah.
Bare-chested photo. Judah.
That's why you need a trusted advisor to help you negotiate. Reach out to me. We'll go ahead and get
That
that
would
done.
be hilarious. wouldn't
I
it?
normally work for 3 or 6% for you. Don't worry about it.
Why? Are you concerned about the total sales of that poster? And that the commission structure wouldn't be there to support the negotiation?
No, I was really on board until the shirtless thing came up. Then I was like, I don't think so.
J-Dubs, my friend, we can rock when you're ready. Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live in Charlottesville, across the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. And Real Talk today, presented by Yes Realty Partners. Find them online at yesrealtypartners.com. Keith Smith, Jonas Smith, Quentin Beckham, and team. They are a true, trusted resource, Yes Realty Partners. Folks, a lot we're going to cover on the program. Judah Wickower is our director. Without further ado, three shot. Keith Smith and Neil Williamson on screen. Que pasa, gentlemen?
3-shot, huh?
I mean,
Wow.
side by side.
Side by side.
Yeah. Hello.
Good morning.
Well, we do this every show. For the 2 people who don't know you, give a quick introduction and what you do and how you do it and how people can reach out to you.
Sure. I'm Neil Williamson. I serve as president of the Free Enterprise Forum, a public policy organization focused on local governments in Central Virginia. We're privately funded, and you can learn all about it at freeenterpriseforum.org.
How's January at the Free Enterprise Forum? Are you doing some planning for the rest of the year? Is it a busy time, a slow time?
January is always the kickoff. Each year in our fundraising year, we start at the same number, 0. So we do a bit of fundraising during the first 3 quarters of the year. All along the time, we still have all the organizational meetings for all of the various boards and commissions that we follow. We have changes in leadership. And it is a fascinating time, and we start to see how the organizational dynamics of these boards and commissions and councils start going forward.
We've had some shifts.
We've had some shifts, and we'll probably dive into that a little bit. That may have affected some of the conversation we want to have today about zoning and missing middle, and a couple of different conversations to tap into that beautiful brain inside your head there, Neil. Look, let's stay on the Free Enterprise Forum for a moment. You would, how many meetings? I was going to say a month, but a day you attend. Public meetings.
Public meetings. Yesterday, it was 3 public meetings and 2 in-house meetings. It actually is easier via Zoom, but at the same time, what I'll be doing is I often live tweet meetings that are public meetings. And I will say with my hashtag apology, live tweeting is hard.
Yes.
And I get things wrong, and I always own up to it. That's part of the beauty of the internet. If you make a mistake, someone will point it out to you, and you can own that mistake.
We know nothing about that.
It is critically important, though, that people understand what's going on at these meetings, and sometimes it's things that are/aren't on the agenda. Something may come up in a executive or administrator's report that is on the agenda that you didn't know was going to come up, and has an impact on a number of folks. Yesterday, for instance, I was watching the Albemarle County Service Authority meeting. I'm sure you were tuned in too, because some people are born to sewage and others have it thrust upon them. But it was really quite a good meeting because it was talking about the long-term costs that the Service Authority is going to be facing, because Rivanna Water and Sewer Authority is going to be increasing their cost for raw water and sewage treatment to them. So there's 1 year, I think it's 2025, that the RWSA costs are going up in the neighborhood of $2 million in that 1 year. Now, ACSA is very prideful in the way that they keep rates not only low but steady. So there may be a year or two where you're paying slightly more than their actual operating costs and their banking reserves, but they've planned on when that line crosses so that you don't have these huge spikes in your water and sewage bills. But all of that was buried in a report. The actual rate discussion won't occur until next month, but we'll be there watching and paying attention.
So the point I'm trying to make is in executive reports, minutes, sometimes there's information in that and in discussion. But if you don't have an opportunity to watch this, unlike some of the folks in this room that we're kind of geeks and we watch this stuff regularly, tune in, check in. It doesn't matter which side. You take these things pretty much down the middle. And it's a good way to get some information out, because if you don't have time to watch a board meeting or some sort of subject that is of interest to you, check out the Free Enterprise Forum. If you like what you're seeing, please throw the guy a few bucks, and follow him on Twitter and all that fun stuff. You do a great service, so thank you.
On Twitter, it's Neil S. Williamson. I'm proud to say that I'm entering my 18th year of this work. To be perfectly honest, when it started, we were not sure how it was going to last. 18 years is a long time.
Yeah.
I've now been doing this longer than just about all but a half dozen staff members in each of the localities, and certainly more than any of the electeds, other than Don Weaver.
That's an interesting line to go down, but
What prompted you to do this?
I was in a career shift.
Okay.
I got a 90-day vacation to play golf. Okay, I was laid off. During that time, this opportunity arose. I knew some of the players involved, and I knew what it could be. It's much bigger than it ever was originally. It was back in the day when we did newsletters. Mary Jean Jaggers gets a shout out because the blog started because I sat next to Mary Jean at a chamber dinner, and she said, "You should have a blog." And sure enough, up the blog went, and we now have 1,200 followers that get every blog post that I put up, subscribers that get that mailed to them.
That's awesome.
It is, and it is, we were on the cutting edge of the blog stuff. We do not yet have a TikTok channel.
Neil Williamson.
no, I don't know. I think that's a good future for you. We can continue the negotiations with Judah over here with the whole shirtless thing, and then you. I think there's a TikTok future going
Well,
on there.
I do think there should be a button that viewers can choose to watch the Judah Cam versus the main feed.
That's good. That's a good idea. And you have young kids that can help you with the TikTok.
My children are grown adults, 24 and 28, and they are both much smarter than me.
One play college football, even Mary.
Yes.
All right, so let's get to some nitty gritty. What storylines have most intrigued you so far? Now that we're halfway through January.
I've been intrigued. Last time I was on, we were talking about Fluvanna and their decisions and discussions revolving how many people represent them on the board. That led to some research and some discussions while I was convalescing from surgery to determine that I believe Albemarle County went to 6 members of a board in 1934.
You put a map on your Twitter account. Dude, I swear, I follow your account religiously. I follow your colleague Sean's religiously and a couple of other folks. But you put a map from decades ago, and you alluded, is it time for another either district or at-large supervisor?
Well, is it time for a new committee or the DISC committee? To
Well,
get set up?
that's a different question. The
Yeah.
first question, which you only get to decide every 10 years,
Exactly right.
in time with the decennial census, Allison Rabel from the Daily Progress tweeted something yesterday focusing on the population growth in Crozet that I think was about 25% in the 10-year time frame. It is a fascinating where growth happens, and the goal of magisterial districts, one of the goals is to be generally equal
Right.
in population. So you may have a larger geographic footprint because you're trying to equalize population. So we said one of the county conditions that we discovered as we looked at this was that the county wishes to stay at 6 members. I question that. Why? What is the benefit to 6 members instead of 5 or 7? And I referenced...
So what's the detriment to it?
Right, what's the
Well,
detriment?
that's what he's alluding to.
And the idea, there are many in the community that believe an odd-numbered board, which the majority of boards in the Commonwealth of Virginia are odd-numbered, would actually be more progressive, because you need to get 4 votes on a 7-member board to get anything happening, but you also need to get 4 votes on a 6-member board to
So
get
the
anything
math's
to
the
happen.
same.
The math is the same, but
Exactly.
except you have one more to get. You have one more opportunity. So I referenced a book that I provided to Judah called Think Again by Adam Grant, which asks you to question, not just receive information with an open mind, but have an open mind about your own positions. So I encourage folks Monday night, I think it's a 7 p.m. meeting, you can find it on albemarle.org. Albemarle is going to be having a public input session. They're going to give probably a 20 or 30 minute presentation, and then they want to hear what you think. If you live in Albemarle, do you think you're well represented? Do you think a 7th supervisor would be a good idea? Do you think we should have 7 districts? Should the 7th supervisor be elected at large? I don't think politically that'll ever happen.
No.
Because that's going to create the feeling of a supervisor.
Yeah, mayor, supervisor.
But Greene County has it now, and it doesn't really matter.
Well, I sent him, and Keith, you jump in. The tweet that Neil sent on his account, I just forwarded to Judah. So this map we're about to have on screen, he'll give us the thumbs up. So this map, and I'm referencing your tweet now, 1875 Albemarle County map showing 6 different magisterial districts. Is it time for a 7th supervisor? So where would that additional district be shaved from or be created from?
Well, I would anticipate one of the things that Albemarle has as their county conditions is every magisterial district holds a portion of the development area as well as a portion of the rural area. I actually think that's a pretty good idea. But that being said, right now, the way the districts are drawn, if you were running, say,
It's on screen now.
Great. If you were running, say you were running in the Scottsville, or actually in the Scottsville district, if you win the development area, it doesn't matter what you do elsewhere. And that's just the math. And that's true in every magisterial district right now.
So I would, that's a great map and a great statistics out there, but today, right, there's another, in your article that you wrote, there's another pie graph in there, roughly 50% of all the counties in the state of Virginia have 5 members. There's only a small percentage, about 7 to 8%, have 6 members, and then there's some 3 members and 7s and stuff like that.
And there's one county, and I'll let you guess which one, has 10. Which one do you think it is?
Ooh.
Is it Northern Virginia?
It is.
Is it Fairfax?
It is. Good
I think
guess.
you've alluded to this on the show before. 10 seems way too many.
Well, you've got 1 million people.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a
It's
million people.
So we're going to get into, hopefully here in a little while, why a couple of NIMBYism and why some projects aren't getting approved and kind of spitball that concept in it. But at the end of the day, all this stuff is numbers, right? It should be anyway. All this stuff is numbers and demographics and where folks are. But what I'd like to take a dive into, okay, Fluvanna County stayed at 5, right? Which I thought was
5 supervisors.
which I thought was the right choice personally, either 5 or 7. I've never been a fan of even, and that's a
Agreed.
thing that's been out there. But from your perspective,
And
and
tell them why, because if it's 3-3, nothing happens.
well, I was going to let Neil tackle that,
Yeah.
but that's 100% right. If it's 3-3, the no side of any topic gets an extra vote. Now, the argument, as Neil pointed out, well, then you should work harder for it. You've got to do it. But, look, the math is the math. You still got to get the 4 on either side. And one of the things I want to take a bit of a dive into, the conversations I've been doing this for 3.5 decades, probably as long as you have. And the feedback of why I like 6 is mostly wrapped around land use.
6?
Excuse me, 6, I apologize. 6, why I like 6.
Or you
like
like
6 or
5.
5?
No. Why a supervisor says, or an elected official says, I like 6. And it's generally wrapped around land use.
It is.
But it only doesn't just affect land use.
It doesn't, but the reality is, when you look back over the last 10 years of decisions by the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, there have been a number of 4-2 votes. There have been a handful of 3-3 votes, and all of them are land use. And in most cases, when that land use, I can think of 4 in the last 2 years, 3 of the 4 came back with lower density,
Yeah.
and were able to come through with either a 4-2 or a 5-1 vote. And often, it is the person whose district it is that votes against it,
Yeah.
so that they can represent the NIMBYism
Sure.
that is resident in their district and still be true to the comprehensive plan that calls for density.
But an even board just does not only impact land use, and this is
That's
this is the conversation I've been having with folks, because I can point to an example in my home county. Right, it was a 6-6 board for years, and we probably got water a lot later than we should have because of those type of votes. So it could impact tax rate.
Oh,
right?
and think of it on the positive side. Gary O'Connell was a city manager in Charlottesville for, I think, a dozen years. And there was a road that I drove on today that used to be called the Meadow Creek Parkway. And every time there was any decision, even a rock color on the bridge, he took it to council, and there was a 3-2 vote. That meant it went forward. If it had been a 6-member council,
It would have been even.
it could have been a 3-3 vote, and it could have not failed. You get an extra point because the even boards and commissions favor the status quo, period.
So we have comments coming in. We'll get to these comments, guys, on Twitter and on Facebook coming in. I want to get to Supervisor McKeel's comment a week ago today in that chair on Keith's show about designated growth area expansion. Supervisor McKeel said on the record that she heard and she referenced you, literally referenced you by name.
And I think somebody said, who?
On the show, literally on the show, referenced him by name, said, Neil, we hear you, but there are also many shopping, and I'm paraphrasing, but paraphrasing accurately, many shopping centers in the designated growth area that are ghost towns and sitting empty, and we need to do something with those first before we expand the designated growth area. So I think it's only fair for you to get a chance to respond to her referencing you last week on this show.
Well, first and foremost, I appreciate Diantha's thoughtful consideration. That being said, one of the things that I've watched supervisors over the years wrestle with is getting rid of commercially zoned land. If you could create a mixed-use situation that was saleable in the market, that would be one thing. But getting rid of that land and converting it to residential, if you look at the pocketbook for the locality, generally speaking, the commercial land produces more revenue.
Sure.
So if you have less than 5% of your land mass dedicated to commercial and residential activity, and you continue to shrink that by various decisions, why not expand the development area? You have enough water to do it. It would be infrastructure costs, but I firmly believe that an expansion of the development area, a significant expansion, would increase supply and mitigate some of the land prices we're seeing now.
So I'm going to take Diantha's position a little bit on this, just for the sake of a talk
Sure.
show here. I don't think that she was insinuating removing all the commercial. I think the conversation was wrapped around mixed use, redevelopment,
Yes, it was.
taking these fashion scare mall
The ghost towns.
and go ahead and redevelop this so that you have this mixed use and you have this live, work, play concept and all that stuff, where you will be able to get the commercial revenue and hopefully provide some affordable housing and housing for all and that end of it. So I think their thinking, for what it's worth, is we've got to figure out a way to approve what's in our growth areas first. But that's not what's happening.
Right.
And that's the problem here.
And the reality is, recently, near Jerry's house, they approved a development that was 1 unit per acre
You're
in
talking
the
Breezy
development
Hill.
area. 1 unit. When they started, I believe it was 2.8 units.
It was
per-
Charlie Armstrong.
And that is, you can cry about the commercial area eating up unused development area. Meanwhile, you've got how many thousands of houses? Oh, wait a minute, I calculated it. Didn't I do a report called density denied, density deferred? Density
did.
It's in this
density
pile,
denied.
by the way.
Yeah, it's amazing to me the thousands of units that have been lost because
Well, let's
of NIMBYism.
let's talk about this, right? Because this is the topic I kind of wanted to go down the road today. So, my home county recent project didn't get approved, right?
What happens to that project now?
Well, that's what I want to talk about. So there may be some people on the side of the fence that think nothing's going to happen. That's not what's going to happen.
Well,
folks.
you should identify the project first.
Sure. So
Just broad strokes.
yeah, so it was Village Gardens. It was roughly 100 some odd acres. I didn't bring all the particulars with me, but it's within Fluvanna County's growth area.
Right outside Lake Monticello.
It's actually adjoins Lake Monticello. It has central water and sewer. It meets all the comp plan requirements. So if those who are new to this and listening, comp plans is the visionary plan that a jurisdiction says this is what we want here, and the developer went and did this through here. And I'm not pointing fingers. Was it a good project, a bad project? This is simple math, folks. So what's going to happen with this project? It will go by right.
Which means what?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Did we plan this? No. By right means that in the zoning ordinance, in this particular case, Fluvanna County, under A1, cluster developments are allowed. So that 100 acres will produce plus or minus somewhere around 60 homes. There will be 60 homes built on this land.
But it could have been, or what they were asking for.
So their proposed density was I wrote the numbers down just to make sure I got it right.
Yeah.
Was 2.9 acres, residential units per acres. The comp plan said you can go between 4 and 8, so they weren't even there. What's most important to understand about this, that's that we could have put this 250 or whatever number of units over there on that 100 acres, and it would have been compact. What will happen now is they will daisy chain. This will happen. The market will do this, and I've got data to prove it. So look, this is not emotional. This is not another. This is just math, and this is how this works. So this unit will be 60. There's an adjoining piece of property will be another 60. Adjoining parcel will be another 50. And these things will daisy chain and get together. And because this one project got shot down, I did the math. It will eat up eventually, and it's going to happen, 700 acres of rural residential property in Fluvanna County. It will have these number of homes that were supposed to be in 100 acres is now going to be spread throughout 700 acres.
Okay, so the cause and effect of that, let's take a step further.
Yeah, so that's...
You're shrinking the potential growth area, you're shrinking the opportunity costs, you're impacting the opportunity costs of housing.
No,
What you're doing is you are not following
The comp plan.
what has been community vetted for the comp plan of placing housing closer to services, reducing governmental costs to deliver those
no.
services.
What's actually going to happen, the growth area in Fluvanna County will grow. It will grow. It just will not be...
We're as dense.
No, it will be as dense, it's just bigger, right? So you will get the same number of units that were in a designated growth area, that's just going to grow. So that if you think there isn't going to be 250 new homes built around Lake Monticello in the next 3
Yeah,
to 5...
I think what you're saying is a little different. You're not saying the designated growth area is going to grow. The area that is impacted by housing will grow beyond the limits
So
of
the
designated growth.
non-geeks, the non-people that read this stuff forever, like you and I do, they'll look at this and they'll see, all of a sudden, I thought there wasn't going to be any new homes here, and they don't matter if it's 100 acres or 2 acres are connected, they don't see the line on the map. They're going to drive down the road and go, holy moly, where did these 250 houses come from?
Right, and
That's what's going to happen.
And for the sake of a talk show, what
that what
the
we're
other side of the argument is
you.
that
That's where I wanted to go.
there are, and Greene County recently did this, they had a proposal to shift the regulations around one development was designated for 55 plus, an age-restricted development. They were trying to lift that and open it up another 1,000 houses, or 800 or whatever it was, doesn't really matter. They turned that down, and it was designed, it was said by folks on the board, it was a great project, but we have too much in the pipeline, and if all of this came online immediately,
It had
we
too
would
much
be
impact,
in a big problem to provide the services required
Specifically around the water.
by the cumulative impacts of it. So I understand the other side, but
No.
I think it's important to know the pressures on all sides.
Well, that's what we want to do here, and that's what we do on Real Talk. We're trying to balance both sides and all this stuff. The reality of it is, everybody that's been on the show for 2.5 years have said we need more inventory, right? It doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on. Everybody pretty much says we need more inventory. And the problem that I have as a 35-year resident of Fluvanna County is it's not now going to be in the growth area. That growth area, by lack of voting, is going to grow.
Help me understand.
And we're not going to
this.
have no control on it.
Okay, help me understand this. Okay, I'm trying to
If I geek
navigate.
out,
here.
I apologize.
No. I'm trying to navigate here. So if the new housing is going to expand across more land, is what you're saying?
Did you use the word sprawl?
That's the right word.
Okay, so there's where I was going to go. So we're going to have sprawl. You're going to have more impact negative on infrastructure, roads, more impact negative.
No. You'll have
People
to-
will have to drive further if there's sprawl.
Yeah.
They will be on roads longer. Roads will deteriorate quicker if they're on roads
But
longer.
if you're connecting 100-acre parcel to 100-acre parcel to 100-acre parcel, we're not spreading throughout the county. It's somewhat centralized. It's not going to. It's going to have the same impact on infrastructure, in my opinion, than if it was in one central area. It's still going to have the same impact on water and sewer because it's the same number of units.
Will it be hooked up to central
Yes.
water and sewer? Okay,
Yes.
that's a different animal
Yes.
than a large 21-acre parcel
Yes.
on well and septic.
Okay, so another follow-up question I have for you guys. If you have sprawl, and that sprawl is not super dense sprawl, isn't the opportunity cost of that long-term less housing in Fluvanna? Because it's taking up more grass and land?
You want to take that one?
Sure. I firmly believe that the market will absorb. We need a tapestry of products. We need to have 2-over-2 townhouses. We need to have straight-up townhouses. We need to have condos. We need to have single-family residential. We need to have townhouses. All of those things we need to have a balanced market. The other thing that I think
And what does everybody want? Everybody wants a balanced market.
most people want a balanced market. Interestingly, I read a tweet the other day that made me think of this show, and it was It was a conversation that Judah and Jerry were having regarding their first homes and never selling your first home. And the tweet was kind of like, isn't that kind of selfish? Because doesn't that not open up the opportunity for first-time home buyer that you had because somebody sold that home? And I thought that was an interesting dilemma. But back to the idea, if a house takes more land and is further separated, it is more expensive to deliver government services.
Oh, yeah.
Period. And more expensive to deliver water and sewer.
And more negative impact on the environment.
Yes.
And it's literally the negative sides of doing that, where you
And more negative impact on future housing, because the land is being cannibalized by sprawl.
and not only negative on that, it's also going to be. Look, we got 23 point some odd million millennials coming into the market. Just to quote a couple of projects out around Lake Monticello, Village Oaks which was rezoned some years ago. They were able to put townhomes in it. It was more of a dense particular project. Island Hill, which was a similar path of that what's happening on Village Gardens, it got rejected. Went by right. So in Village Oaks, the median sales price was, hold on a second, folks, sub 300. Island Hills, single family detached, they're closer to 500,000. Which, and that's literally what's going to happen here, folks. What's going to happen is that this 100 acres will end up it'll be another Island Hill. It'll be large homes, single family detached, in the $400 and $500 range.
And is that what people want?
It's not necessarily what people want, is that we're missing this middle, right? What we talked about yesterday in the Regional Housing Partnership for an hour, which thank you for joining it. We're the missing middle. So where is the middle going to go, right? And we've been talking about this for how many years? Two and a half years.
For those that don't know, I live in just over the Albemarle County line in Greene County. As I pull out of my driveway every day, there's a Charlottesville police car. First responders are not living in our community.
Teachers,
nurses,
Yep.
firefighters, they're not living because they can't afford to.
and many aren't even living right over the county line or the city line. Many are living in Waynesboro, Shenandoah Valley.
I happened to have the opportunity to talk to a lot of people while I was laid up in the hospital. Most of them were commuting over the mountain.
Right, and then we realize why we have a shortage of police officers, for example, in the Charlottesville Police Department.
So
you're paid very little, not very little, but you're not paid a fair wage. You risk your life, and then you have to commute 45 minutes each way to get to your house and your family.
So that's the negative, right? So as these homes are being produced at a certain price point, and God bless them, they're going to. This is what the market wants, and they're going to produce these homes, and we're going to eat up. And this is the reason I wanted to have this conversation about my home county. These number of units will be built. They're just going to be daisy chained, and it will eat up a ton of land. The market isn't going anywhere, folks. The buyers out there is not going anywhere for the next.
But they are going somewhere. If you
No,
don't
I'm
offer
talking about the physical buyer himself.
Right, the physical buyer himself, the question is,
He's basically saying they're looking for houses, but he's saying they are going somewhere. They're going further away from the city.
Right. That's exactly right.
and for instance, I looked at a project yesterday, someone had tweeted out, that had 2 over 2 townhouses.
It's the one in Crozet, right?
The one in Crozet that Nicole Scrow actually
Scrow,
tweeted that.
right.
And I believe Craig Builders was doing that project. But that's a project, that's a model that is underrepresented in our market.
Well, and she alluded to if that was green lighted or given some more opportunity, that Craig would go super deep down that rabbit hole. I read that tweet as well.
I will tell you that.
Because Craig's got the money to do it.
Well, beyond that, and this is a little bit off topic, but when there was this time of great unpleasantness, Craig Builders was nimble enough to change some of the product they were delivering.
Oh, for sure.
And that made a difference in their performance over that time of great unpleasantness.
Keith, you want to jump in on this, or we get to comments?
but let's get to comments, but before we get to comments, I just want to put this dollar amount and this buyer profile, this missing middle we're missing, into a little bit of context, right? So the Lake Monticello right now, we've got 13 homes on the market, right? And the medium sales price, list price at this point is 301. We're roughly got a 2-to-1 ratio. In other words, for every two homes comes off, we've got one going on. But I took an opportunity to do an absorption rate. We are last 12 months, so an absorption rate. So every month, 28.5 homes in Lake Monticello was coming off the market. We are so far from balanced, it's ridiculous. So now that we're not going to have the density, right, to come in, I don't know where these buyers are going to go. As to your point, they're going to drive or fly to whatever to go ahead and do that. I'm on a bit of a soapbox here, so I'll let you take some.
I'm actually responding to Nicole and Rory.
Hey, Nicole.
And Rory Stolzenberg about the tweets they sent out, I think it was yesterday, 15 hours ago. And what he's referencing is Rory's tweet, who interestingly is the Charlottesville Planning Commissioner and is one of the most vocal planning commissioners I have ever seen in my entire life on social media.
He's fun to listen to.
He talks about the 12-plex concept proposed here, which is Crozet. From the front, it appears to be a row of 5 townhomes presenting 2.5 stories to the front and 3.5 stories to the rear. In fact, each end cap is a 2-story townhome on top of 2 studios. In the middle is 2 stacked triplexes. Nicole responds, who's a developer, who's focused on density. She responds by a 12-plex. I'm very jealous. And then she says, if we ever get around to legalizing plexes, Craig Builders would probably build a bunch. It would be exciting to see a pretty large local builder make that pivot.
Well, it would be also, if you take the chance to read Density Deferred, Density Denied, Ms. Scro's Project 990 Rio is one of the case studies we used, and she came forward with a innovative program that was going to be small houses, not tiny houses, but small houses, and it got shot down, and they ended up coming back with a more traditional model that the neighbors of Dunlora still didn't like, but ended up winning approval.
I remember that. So we have a question directly for Neil about a different topic on a tweet from Neil Williamson. Do we want to offer any perspective on what we're talking here?
Let's go do that. I'm going to crunch some numbers here real quick.
Okay, you want me to get to this comment here?
Yeah, please do that.
Okay, so this is from Grayson, who is referencing your tweet from literally screenshotting your tweet from a few days ago about Albemarle is now considering paying community members from underrepresented population cohorts to serve on the comprehensive plan working group. Cost about $8,000 to $12,000, about $1,000 per person. And he alludes that paying people, even underrepresented populations, to serve on cohorts is not realistic, fair, or reasonable. Why should we incentivize underrepresented populations and pay them when the community members that are represented are not getting the same compensation?
Great question. Grayson, thank you, and thank you for following me on Twitter. I was live tweeting Board of Supervisors meeting, that would have been Wednesday, where they are actively considering this.
For parity.
Not for parity as much as to get some of the folks that haven't been represented in the community meetings represented.
Okay.
Richmond did this. First they came out with a plan, the Richmond 300 plan I think it's called, and they had no compensation. They didn't get the representation they wanted. They added the compensation and they had more diversity in the group that provided the information they wanted to get. They wanted feedback from underrepresented groups, and they paid for it. Is that the right thing to do? That's an open question. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it.
There's
frankly.
a lot of pitfalls of that.
Sure. You have people that there are people in this community that have dedicated significant portions of their lives to following local government, beyond me, where I get paid to do this. But there are citizens of all different philosophical stripes that follow this stuff closely.
Right.
And they will be locked out of this because they are generally represented. So how do you, and that's really was the conversation at the board.
Characterize underrepresented compensation.
Well, the idea is these folks will have some costs associated with participating, and the staff is like, hey, if you want to do this, we can do this. And they said, we don't know when we'll have the meetings. We need to talk to the cohort that comes together and see when they can. It may prove to be that they're virtual meetings, but it may prove to be in-person lunch works because they don't have childcare costs. I mean, it's a huge question of
How do you balance that, though?
that's a good question. How do you balance
How do you
it?
balance that? Because for the sake of a talk show, I'm going to take the opposite side of it, right? In any reading you ever do about NIMBYism and all that stuff, the people that tend to show up look like me, right? They look like me. They're retired typically, and they show up in force. And what we're talking about is how do we get the other side to participate, because they're busy working. They're busy taking care of their children,
Running to
or-
soccer games,
or
doing that
whatever
stuff. I mean,
or
life
running
is busy.
businesses,
Sure.
or whatever it is. So the first thing is follow you. That's the first thing, because you'll get information from it. The second thing, I'm not so sure I'm in favor of paying for it. It just doesn't feel right.
And does the opinion that comes forth from the paid
Or skewed.
underrepresented
Yeah.
overrepresent on when they're discussing the issue?
Yeah.
It's an open question. I don't have an answer.
So you've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this for decades. It's always a struggle. We talk about it on the show all the time. It's always a struggle to get the opposing opinion out to these meetings.
Well, he's said many times, and he really opened my eyes. How does the person who is not living in the apartment fight to live in the apartment
That
in the
they're in.
designated growth area
That's exactly
when they
right.
don't have a place to live yet in the designated growth area?
That's exactly right.
That it is very difficult for the new resident to
Who's not
attend,
here.
who's not here to attend a meeting here.
Right,
I don't care if you're on Zoom or not. You're not here.
right. And that really opened up my eyes there. How about this from Ray Cadell? Well, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I'm going to go down to the HOA side of it and their participation in this, which is going to open up a whole can of worms. So let's see what Ray has to say first.
Paul Hendricks. Love you, Paul Hendricks. You're a hell of a squash player, Paul Hendricks. As an underrepresented person, Paul speaking as himself, as an underrepresented person, it does not feel right to me.
Yeah.
That's from Paul Hendricks. Offer more perspective on that, Paul, if you could. Paul's a very smart man. Ray Cadell. I have made my long career handling approximately 80% first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
Housing prices and income have not risen at anywhere near a similar rate in greater Charlottesville. We are never going to meet the needs fully of affordable housing. The best we can hope for, I believe, is to focus on workforce housing. Everybody can't own a house, never have been able to. We got to stop focusing on this.
But you're not even increasing the rental units either.
No, but I want to be fair because Ray does a fair amount of property management as well, and he is absolutely correct. And back when I started in this gig almost 20 years ago, there was this feeling everybody should own a home. That has shifted. There are folks that shouldn't be homeowners for a variety of reasons. And some
But they should have a home to live in.
they need shelter.
There you
That's a different issue than the home piece. And I will give kudos to Housing Albemarle, has focused some energy, which it hadn't in the previous iteration, on rental housing. Rental housing is a key component to the affordable housing picture in any community.
Well, so we just talked about some of these numbers of these by right subdivisions out in my jurisdiction, right? Guess what's going up on the rents? These rents are going up 7% this year. That's what's predicted, 7.1%. It's probably going to go up a little bit more the following year. They get stuck in this rut that they can't even move out of it. So if they're staying in a rental unit, they're paying more money. They're paying off.
How much has real estate increased in value over that same time frame? You've got a 7% rental increase. What was the increase in value?
Double.
Double
Well,
that.
not quite double.
So these landlords are actually
Double
not
digits.
passing all of the property increase and tax increase.
Well, it depends on where you're at.
Depending on where you're at. But
Neil,
I'm a big believer in folks that say I rent so I don't pay property taxes. That's BS.
That
You
is
do.
BS.
You pay it. You just pay somebody else to pay it.
Right.
You know, you pay it. That's the reason it's going up 7% because there are HOA fees and
And
taxes.
some contracts actually have that written into them.
That's Correct. That's exactly right.
That's mainly commercial, though.
Yeah, mainly commercial.
Mainly commercial. More folks are finding, so dude, this is why you do what you do. Multiple people are putting on the feed right now, paying people to serve on boards is not right.
No.
Well, let's be clear.
There's a difference between board of supervisor,
Right.
and there's a difference between
Planning commissioners get paid.
they get paid $500.
Yeah. And
get paid nothing.
This is, we're talking $1,000 for a year.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot of money.
So you're
generally
talking like $80 a month.
Yeah, for 2 meetings a month. And let's say the meetings last 4 hours in total, and you have probably 2 hours of work on it.
So below minimum wage, you're
Yeah,
talking.
I mean, again, I
Maybe
want to make
Mrs.
certain that I
Smith will
scale
fight.
this.
Maybe Mrs.
I don't think
Smith-
she's going to allow you to do that. Don't
Maybe
go down
Mrs.
that
Smith
road.
won't let me stay on all my boards. Maybe some income coming in here. I'll tell you what, I would be in favor of one. Who won? Is she watching?
Yeah, always
Look at this, honey. I
watching.
can make money.
Yona, you have my sympathy.
$7 an hour, Yoda. Don't let him
Well, how
do
much do
it.
you think I work for now? But that's a pay raise. Look, I think a solution to that might be, that's somebody who sits on multiple boards and commissions, and I do a lot of meetings, as Neil knows well, and I'm traveling from Fluvanna County, pay for my transportation costs, right, have a per diem.
A better solution to that would be, and I'm just spitballing with you guys, is if the county, instead of using this money to compensate people, provided them with a really nice laptop and a hotspot where the internet could be way more quality and reliable.
Well,
and then you could get engagement from underrepresented communities that does not have the infrastructure digitally or the broadband to participate.
So, Jerry, you're going down a little bit of and jump in, Neil, if I go off base here. You're jumping down a little bit of a slippery slope. At the moment, we're still stuck in this, in COVID meetings, right? This virtual stuff. At some point, the public meetings, correct me if I'm wrong, but at some point, something at the state level is going to say, you can't do this.
It depends what the state does,
Well,
right?
I
That's what
think
the
the
state-
state is going to go, and correct me if I'm wrong, continue with the hybrid model.
What's going to
Maybe
happen? What's going to happen? There's legislation, several pieces of legislation moving forward right now that would allow you to continue with the hybrid model.
Yeah.
But right now, the law is the members of the body
Have to be in
must
person.
be in person.
Yeah.
And I posted a blog post this week that talked about the Board of Supervisors being very adamant that they're getting great participation in their CACs, their community advisory committees, via Zoom.
You got a couple watching.
Yeah.
So I want to back up for a second.
Sure.
I want to make sure I understand what we're talking about here, because I may have missed it when I was crunching numbers here. So are we talking about paying people to attend the meetings, or paying the commissioners and the actual folks that are volunteer for that?
Specifically, the reference to that tweet was for the Albemarle County Working Group for the comprehensive plan would be compensated so that they can bring in underrepresented groups, and they believe that compensation will help attract folks that have not historically been engaged in these conversations.
He's talking about participation equity.
Got it, but what we're not talking about, which I wanted to make sure is clear out there, is paying people to speak at public
No,
meetings. and
we're
stuff
not.
like
We're
that.
not talking about the $20 Kroger gift card at Charlottesville City Council meetings, and we'll leave it at that.
I thought it was 25.
Well,
but I may
okay,
be
well,
wrong.
leave it at that.
I may be
We're not
wrong.
gonna go down that road.
But I wanted to make sure the folks listening and watching here didn't realize that was the conversation we were having.
But
Look,
actually, to sit on the
I have to tell you, I come from this from a very unique and personal perspective because I'm on enough of them. Look, it would be really good if my expenses got paid, right? If my expenses to go to the meeting.
Dude, that is a Pandora's box.
I understand that. I understand it, but let's look at it as a business, right? If I own a business and you're working for me and you're traveling for a convention or something like that to learn something and bring it back to the office, I'm going to pay for your expenses. I think you'll get more participation if you can do that. Not actually paying people to be there, but look, if you have reimbursable mileages or something like that, maybe I'm off base, but from my perspective, that would be helpful to my bottom line. I'm blessed that I can afford to do this.
Right.
Right?
And so take a good look around at all of the boards of supervisors around and city council
And
around.
most of them are the same
And
blood.
what is the level of diversity?
I mean, there's none. It's folks that are white that are often 50 plus and have disposable income. I mean, is anyone going to argue with that?
Is that representative of the community?
I mean, it may be representative of Albemarle County.
I don't think so. I don't think it's representative of the community at all.
I mean,
If it comes-
I'm not saying it's right,
Yeah.
but I mean, have you walked around Albemarle County?
So how are we going to solve the problem, gentlemen, right? How are we, look, we've been battling this battle for decades that I'm aware of, that I'm involved with. And how can we get more participation, more diversity on, how do we get that to happen?
Well-
And this may, I know it's a slippery slope and, but it's at least
Dude,
an
that is
idea.
going to lead to manipulation with some folks
Yeah, so
getting
what-
involved.
So what it's really going to do
I mean,
is,
mileage manipulation,
well,
there was a guy, I'm not going to say any names. First job out of the University of Virginia was at the Daily Progress. And at that time, the Daily Progress, just like at the time now, was paying us nothing.
sure.
So we had to do anything we could just to pay our bills.
Sure.
And there was a particular reporter who was filing stories from home while watching the game and or carpooling with other reporters
Doubling up on the,
and then claiming the mileage.
yeah, got it. So again,
52 cents a mile, trip to Charlotte, that adds up.
Again, I sit on enough of these boards and commissions and revolving around this particular subject, and we try, and I chair several of them, and we try everything. Okay, let's move the meeting to 9 o'clock in the morning. Let's move it to 7. We try everything. I mean, look, this may not be the Robert Liberty silver bullet, but there might be one of the pellets of the buckshot. So a buckshot. I mean, how you've got the magic wand. Here's the magic wand.
Should we give him the crystal ball?
No, I think we're going to have him give him the magic wand.
Okay.
Solve this problem, Neil.
Contested elections.
There you go.
Elections matter.
Well,
We don't have those in Albemarle County.
It is not the solution, but it is something that is critically important, and that's not any kind of slight to anyone who was elected unopposed.
But
It
we're-
is simply an idea that
We had
ideas
3 on
need
the
to
board
be
of
discussed.
Albemarle elected unopposed.
Yes.
and many other jurisdictions around us.
Yes.
Mine included was the same situation. But where, you attend enough, where does most of the bulk of the work get done?
Well, one of the things that is missing in the Zoom meetings is the recess, where you can
There you go.
just wander up and talk to the folks on the dais and say, hey, I know you got this coming up and you didn't want to do it in public, but you wanted to, and now what we're doing is, I know others are doing this. I'll be sitting watching a meeting that goes into recess, my phone will ring, and it's a supervisor. They have a question about an agenda item coming up and our opinion about it or our research on it, and they are proactively reaching out to us. And that's in several localities. That's a great thing, but it overrepresents my influence in my world.
What does that mean?
I want to get back to meetings with public when it's safe. I think it's critically important
It is.
to have the elected and appointed meetings to occur with the members present in a hybrid fashion that allows participation by the public, but requires the elected and appointeds to be there.
Correct.
It is being there, it's a Peter Sellers movie, I think, is critically important. And Woody Allen said 80% of life is just showing up. And quite frankly, it's easy to sit in a gated community behind a Zoom call and not have to face the public.
And I'm going to roll that back to the project that well done, sir. That village. You want to have a sip of coffee? That's all right. You want a sip of
Which one is he referring to over here? Which one's he referring to?
It's okay. You feel good?
I think that was a zing at
I know it was. Poof. But look, the same thing, the gated community and all the stuff. I've been a dues paying member of Lake Monticello since 1987, and the president of Lake Monticello opposed this project on the behalf of all of Lake Monticello residents, which I've never seen happen before.
Is that even legal?
Yes?
The president of, okay, I'm going to ask a question.
Yeah.
The president of the Lake Monticello Homeowners Association can say, I'm representing the homeowners at Lake Monticello?
Because in his defense, they took a motion,
Right.
they took a vote, they took a motion they went ahead and did that. It's just never been done before.
How many people participated in that?
At least Lake Monticello, anyway.
Yeah, well, but I just want to suggest that the Forest Lakes Homeowners Association might have a leg up on that.
Yeah.
Was it the association or was it a particular group?
It was
within
the association that utilized a dues increase to finance opposing
Consultants.
housing. And
Scott
consultants.
Elliff, he's referencing in RST.
Yeah, and I don't know because I haven't had a chance to make phone calls to people that really specialize this, and Nicole might be able to brush off something on that. I don't know. Typically, it's always been my understanding that with the HOA laws, because I wrote a few of them in my career, you kind of stay within the four corners of your entity, right? You don't you
Leave the neighborhood. You don't leave the neighborhood, is what you're saying.
Yeah, correct.
So if someone has a project that is adjacent.
Okay, I know what. Okay, this man is now going to bring up Breezy Hill over here. This man, I'm starting to read your cards over there, Neil Williamson. He's right.
I was talking RST because that was where the HOA came in. I didn't think an HOA came in to weigh in on Breezy Hill. I believe residents got organized on their own and weighed in on that issue.
Well.
Successful residents that were very organized.
I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, I really want to dig deeper into that, what the legalities of that is, and this is not the time or the place to do that. But I was taken back by it that my position was contrary to the president's, was being dictated as his.
This comment's coming in from friend of the program and friend of the Star, Keith Smith. This is from Nicholas Irby. And he loves, the Peter Sellers reference from Neil Williamson. And then he says, I'm with Jerry. I don't believe that expenses are holding people back from joining these boards. It's part of the white culture to convert from a business owner to a member of the community in a political way. But from Hispanics we deal with at 5 o'clock, they're thankful for the job business they have and go home. They want their family time. They're thankful for what they have. He's speaking as a Hispanic. And saying at 5 o'clock we're ready to go home and be with our family and enjoy dinner together. Nicholas Irby, Cubano, right there. I just don't see I don't see an $80 a month, nominal payment impacting engagement.
And this, again, I bring this forward as information
Right.
from
This
the
isn't
meeting.
you. Yeah.
And it is, I encourage you to read the staff report from Wednesday's meeting. If you go to albemarle.org, the cheat sheet way to do it is click on community, click on calendar, and then click down to the meeting date, and you can pull up the agenda that way. You can read the staff report that highlights several other localities that have done this and had some success. I am somewhat ambivalent to it.
Yeah, you're not taking a stance.
I firmly believe we need to have community engagement. I am a little nervous about paying people to do it, but I also know that when I see pictures of planning, specifically TJPDC had these planning meetings back when we used to meet together, there wasn't a cornucopia, a tapestry of ethnicities across the room.
This reminds me of, remember, and you brought this to attention as well. Remember on some of these boards or commissions, they were asking the volunteer boards and commissioners to then provide financials?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that actually those are coming due at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm. And that created a you-know-what storm because someone who's volunteering their time didn't want to expose on public record fashion what their net worth was and what holdings they had.
And three people left the Albemarle County EDA for that reason.
We do that. I do that all the time. Plus, you sign non-disclosure agreements, and you sign, disclosure agreements where you disclose what businesses you're part of and organizations you're. This happens every year, and thank you for reminding me. I need to get it done by the end of the month. Thank you.
You do. Don't forget, and it's not easy. It actually is. There are like 16 different forms.
Yeah.
That you might have to use. And if you go through the exercise and you've used the wrong form, you've wasted an hour.
Yeah.
And just to go back to this privilege perspective, I just pick up the phone and call my CPA and say, run this stuff for me, and it's done. But not everybody has that ability to do that, and because you have to do that, you don't participate.
I think if they want to drive engagement, they get rid of the
Barriers
of
to
entry.
engagement.
Yeah, this is like common sense to me, but it's not common sense to make it easier to participate.
I will say one of the more challenging meetings I attended in the last 17 years was a comp plan meeting in Charlottesville at, is it Mount Union? No, Mount Zion Church. And it was, Heather Hill was running at the time, and she was in the meeting. And a local developer, Frank Stoner, was one of the presenters. And it was people that I never used to see in planning commission and city council meetings because they had taken the meeting to them. And it was difficult. It was not my favorite meeting, but it was certainly voices that hadn't been expressed, and that was worth being there.
That excited you more than most of anything, just to have other voices in the room.
I
You get educated.
Well, the thing of it is, we all don't have the answers.
Yeah.
More experienced people groupthink, whereby they explain where they're coming from, and sometimes they have more experience on the receiving end, that certainly should impact the decision making. We've said from the beginning of our founding back in 2003, we should always consider those that are being impacted by regulation and their positions on that regulation. That goes for developers, that goes for affordable housing participants. I mean, we're a community. We should work together to get things done.
So as you're speaking, I'm buzzing through all these pages that have quotes and stats and all these different things. And then I'm going to mishmash a couple of quotes together on this kind of stuff. But the reality of it is the conversation we're having right now in these little yellow and pink tabs I have is they specifically in a relationship to NIMBYism is people are working. They're trying to afford the rent that's going up on them. They're trying to afford the house, and they can't participate in this. But the reality of it is we have been underbuilding for decades.
It is true. And who has benefited from that?
Homeowners, current
And-
homeowners, the wealthy.
Did you say voters?
I mean, I don't think voters. The voters that are voting, and especially in Albemarle County, and actually I'm choosing my words very carefully. The voters that are voting, especially in Albemarle County, are folks that, for lack of better phrase, look like the people at this table.
I'm not going to
Is
argue.
anyone going to argue with that?
Nobody's going to argue with, at least at this table anyway. I don't think so.
I think that they,
But how do, look, gentlemen, we've pointed this out numerous times, right? How are we going to fix it? How are we going to turn red tape into green tape? How are we going to, as a Fluvanna County residents, not
The
take...
easiest way, if you want to fix that problem, and you guys have championed this forever, is expanding the designated growth area. But expanding the designated growth area, and I'm offering both sides of the perspective, does not have the momentum with the folks that vote. And the folks that vote are the people that put the supervisors in office that can determine whether or not the designated growth area is going to be expanded. You have a catch-22. You have a chicken and an egg scenario here. You want to get more affordability, you create more supply, which is going to drive down pricing. But the voters don't want that.
So I'm flipping through a white paper.
Does anyone disagree with that?
I will say that I have seen supervisors vote, and planning commissioners for that matter, vote line item in favor of increased density outside of their district.
Yeah, outside of their district, right. Bela Pistol-Kirtley said no to RST. Did she not? Donna Price, how did she vote Breezy Hill?
I can't remember.
She voted against Breezy Hill. They're voting, and that's probably why they should be. What is the job of an elected official? Is the job of the elected official to represent their district and their constituents?
Actually, that's the
Or is the job of the elected official to represent the jurisdiction in totality?
both.
How can you do both? It's not possible to do both. How do you do both?
I don't have the answer to that, how to do both, but technically they're elected by their districts.
And should they represent their voters in their district before Albemarle County citizens in totality?
I don't have an answer to that, Jerry. That's the first time you asked me a question I don't have an answer to.
Well, the question is really, if something's good for Albemarle County, should they vote for it if it's not exactly good for their district?
And the counter to that is, if they start voting against, if they start making decisions against the voters in their district, what are their odds of them getting reelected?
Literally, this
And you got Malik, how many terms? You got McKeel, how many terms? Galloway, how many terms? Palmer, how many terms before Andrews took over? Word on the street is Price wants to run again.
I'm literally reading a white paper written about NIMBYism, and that's one of the things they're talking about. Look, you can take that even further than that. I believe in regionalism, I really do. It might be a problem with some folks that I represent in Fluvanna County, but I believe in regionalism. So what is happening in Albemarle County?
Regionalism, you mean districtism here?
Well, no, I'm talking about.
He's thinking that what we need to do is think of things as a region.
That's exactly right.
And that if we want to succeed as a region,
We need to
have a workforce that lives in the region that can serve the region's workforce needs.
So what has just happened in Fluvanna County is going to impact Albemarle County, is going to impact Louisa County. What's happening in Louisa County or Albemarle County or what isn't happening, or Charlottesville is going to impact this region, this 6-jurisdiction region is really one. So you can take what you're talking about as far as, am I representing the district? Am I representing Fluvanna County? But I also have to think about the whole region, right? Because whatever decisions we make at this level is going to impact everybody else. It's my personal opinion for what
I think you're 100% right on that. 100% right. He's saying the housing ecosystem is all tied together.
Well, time of great
Transportation ecosystem is all tied
transportation, health, education,
Employment.
employment. These things are all interconnected. Time of great unpleasantness, right? 2008 to 2010, when housing in our region took a dive. Did it not impact everybody? It impacted everybody big time. Dr. Lisa Sturvant, who's been on the show, from Virginia Realtors chief economist, second GDP, did I say that right?
GDP.
Thank you. In the state of Virginia, behind the government.
Real estate.
Real estate is our ecosystem. Everybody whose sponsorship's running through our show, on the bottom of our show, are part of that ecosystem that impact
The supply chain.
The supply chain. Thank you on that end of it. So look, it makes a difference. That decision in Fluvanna County will have ripple effects throughout the region. Again, my Fluvanna friends might not want to have a cup of coffee.
And it may expand the region because of lack of supply.
Well, it is.
Pushes folks further out.
Well, it is. Buckingham County, we talked about this on numerous shows. It's going to happen because this 28.3 million millennials they're hitting these ages. They're going to go somewhere.
And some of them like to stay in the Charlottesville area because they went to school here, and then all of a sudden they give up their hometown and they make this their hometown.
This is my third coffee. I got to calm down a little bit.
I think he's talking about me in Williamsburg and Charlottesville. I love Neil Williamson on this program so much, and the humor.
I got a hard stop at 11:30.
Hey, we have 6 minutes. I know, 5.5 minutes. Dude, you would be surprised to see how many people had literally no idea about this pay to participate topic.
Yeah.
And this is a direct result of why you live tweet these meetings. Because that little tidbit was not in any news. It was only on Williamson's Twitter feed.
And
Real talk.
Real talk.
There you
Thank
go.
you, Neil. Thank you for doing
Well,
that.
it is. I will say that's why you go to the meetings.
And if you can't, you follow you.
And we go to the meetings so you don't have to.
So this one's come in. Kelsey, we love when you watch the program. And Catherine Dabney, hello. Nick Hill, hello. What does the guest think of the council change in dynamics and how it's going to impact the city and real estate?
Boy, with 6 minutes left, that's an easy question.
Well, I'll get up at 11:30. You guys can keep on going.
The the reality is, I felt as though first off, the election of officers that was run by the deputy city managers was well done. We have two very strong professionals in those roles.
Agree.
And the fact that there was a 3-2 vote for mayor is an interesting dynamic, but I find even more interesting a unanimous vote for vice mayor, which may suggest that Mr. Wade has a little more swing on the council than the standard vice mayor.
No doubt.
And so I think that dynamic will be worthy of watching. What impact will it have on real estate? I can't really speak to that because I don't know what projects will be coming forward, but
Well,
I do know.
we need to get from the comp plan.
That's where I was headed.
Okay, thank you.
I do know that we are working with a consultant on the zoning text, and that will be a discussion that involves, depending upon some pending lawsuit, that involves increasing density in some existing neighborhoods.
So do you still see us knocking out the zoning as we discussed earlier in the next 12, 24 months? What do you think that's going to be knocked out?
Better question. No, I don't mean better.
Sure you do.
A follow-up question
Come on,
would
Jerry,
be,
you mean better.
will that happen while McGill, Payne, and Snook are on council?
Yes,
That's the
18
yeah.
months.
Okay, so you're saying that will be part of the lasting legacy of Payne, McGill, and Snook?
And you don't think the lawsuits are going to hang it up?
June 23.
That's your date.
Yep.
Because Payne, McGill, and Snook
I think
go
he's trying- I
through
think he's trying to bet-
December 31, 2023.
Correct.
Yeah. Are we trying to bet another bottle of booze here?
I'm just telling you what my prediction
Yeah,
is.
I mean,
I
it
think
sounds like we have a prop
bottle
bet
of booze
waiting to
already.
happen. Yeah.
I'll take that prop bet.
Dude, what are you doing?
I just like giving him alcohol.
What are you doing? Do not take this prop bet. All right,
fun.
did you just bet that?
Yeah, sure.
Mine's
with that.
on or before June 23.
Yeah, I'll
Why don't you take it all the way to December 31? He's giving you December 31.
No. I took that back.
Okay.
He threw out June 23rd. I'll take
June 1923.
Okay.
Then we're saying
June
bet?
19th, 2023.
Sure.
Same bet.
Same bet.
Good.
Bottle of bourbon over there.
God, I'm in.
And you're saying no way it happens.
No way it's happened, but I'll tell you what it's really about is when Neil Williamson sends me a text and say, I'm moving some brush around and I'm sipping on your bourbon was well worth it.
Yeah. I did have to move 3 truckloads of brush from the previous storm, and afterwards I did text Keith and say I finally cracked that bourbon, and damn, it's good.
So
Is
did you
that
do
how
it
you
bef-
rubbed it in? That
Did
was
you-
gloating?
did you-
That was gloating.
That wasn't gloating. I was very happy
gloating.
No, it wasn't. I'm interpreting that very different than gloating. I was interpreting that.
Neil, was that gloating?
That was a thank you.
It was a humble brag.
It's a humble brag.
It was my hearing aids heard thank you. for the
Oh,
bottle of-
God, I love Neil. It's
So did you do that before you started?
No.
No. Okay.
We have 60 seconds left, and this man deserves significant props and plugs for Free Enterprise Forum. How do we donate? How do we get more engaged?
freeenterpriseforum.org. Click on it. You'll be redirected to freeenterpriseforum.wordpress.com. There's a donate button. I need financial support to make this continue to happen. Every year I start at zero. I'm happy to report that we are above zero now, this many days into the year, but I need your financial support. Donate today. It's easy.
This guy's fantastic.
Well, you know,
Fantastic.
any opportunity to sit down and talk to you, either virtually or in person, or attending any meeting, he's always. We joke around with each other, but he's always kind and thoughtful to me. So thank you. I want to say that in front of it. You even though when I might come out and say something that you go, Smith, did you really say that? You handle it very well in a public environment. So
All
thank you.
good. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Neil Williamson, Keith Smith. My name is Jerry Miller. Judah Wickhauer is our director. This is Real Talk, presented by Yes Realty Partners, and we're on time.
Look at this. We're on time.
We're on time. It's just turned 11:30.
I've got a 12 o'clock. Got to go.
I know. Thank you kindly for joining us. I Love Seville show in 60 minutes. Take care, guys.